Welcome to the Explainer. You know, every single piece of software you use, no matter how complicated, is really organized in one of two fundamental ways. Today, we're going to see why picking the wrong one at the start, well, it can lead to a total disaster down the road. And it's a really simple but incredibly powerful idea. I mean, think about the most complex app on your phone, whether it's for streaming movies or booking a flight. All of that code, every last bit of it, boils down to just two things. And here's what they are. On one side, you've got your nouns. This is the data, right? The things your program knows about. You know, a book's title, its author, that kind of stuff. And on the other side, you've got the verbs. These are the actions, the manipulations you can perform on that data. Like, say, a function that cooks up a nice, clean citation.
So that brings us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? What's the best way to organize them? Should we keep our nouns and our verbs in separate little boxes? Or should we bundle them all up together? And as we're about to find out, the answer to that has huge, massive implications for how easy or how painful your code is to manage down the line.
All right, let's dive into our first approach. We'll call it Design 1, Separate Tools. The best way to think about this is like you're in the kitchen. You keep all your ingredients in one drawer and all your kitchen utensils, your knives and spoons, in a totally separate one. The logic here is super straightforward, really intuitive. First, you lay out all your data structures, those are your nouns, and then, once you've got those defined, you write a bunch of separate functions, your verbs, that know how to work with that data. So, sticking with our citation example, we'd start by creating a simple little container, a data structure to hold all the info for a single book. This is our noun. And it's important to remember, it's just a passive bucket of facts. It doesn't do anything on its own. And this right here gets to the absolute heart of the separate tools philosophy. To create a citation, we call an external function, our verb, and we literally hand the book data over to it. In this world, the function is the smart one, right? The data, it's just dumb cargo, just along for the ride. Okay, so far so good. This design works perfectly for a while. But as anyone who works in software knows, change is the one thing you can always count on. And sooner or later, a new challenge is going to pop up and really test the limits of this design. And here it is. A new request comes in. Hey, we also need to be able to cite web pages. Now, this seems like a pretty simple, innocent request, right? But what we're about to see is that this little change is going to expose a huge, fundamental weakness in how we've set things up. Because now, our cite APA function, our verb, suddenly has to get a whole lot smarter. It can't just assume it's getting a book anymore. It has to play detective. It has to look at the data it's given and figure out, okay, is this a book or is this an article, before it can even start to do its job. And see, here's the real problem. To add support for web pages, our new noun, we have to go back and crack open our existing cite APA function, a function that was working perfectly fine, by the way, and now we have to bolt on more logic to it. And this is the core problem, the danger of this design. Every single time you want to add a new noun, like a web page, you have to hunt down every single verb, cite APA, cite MLA, you name it, and change it. I mean, this is super risky. It just doesn't scale. You're constantly messing with code that already works, just begging to introduce a new bug.
Okay, so that's one way to do it. But now, let's look at a completely different way of thinking. This is Design 2, Smarter Objects.
So what's an object? Well, remember our kitchen analogy? Instead of keeping the ingredients and the utensils in separate drawers, an object puts them together in the same box. It's a self-contained little unit that bundles the data, our noun, and the actions, our verbs, all together. This is a total shift in thinking. I mean, it's a completely different philosophy. We're flipping the responsibility on its head. Instead of some outside function being the expert on citations, we now just say, book, cite yourself. And just look at the code. The change is subtle, but it is profound. We're not calling cite APA and passing the book to it anymore. No, we're talking directly to the book object itself and telling it, hey, run your cite APA action. The verb is now baked right into the noun.
So, remember that new request? We need to cite web pages? Well, in this new world, the solution is just beautiful. It's so clean. We just create a totally new, self-contained web page object that knows how to cite itself. And here's the key. We don't have to change a single line of our existing code. Nothing.
And that is the big payoff. This is why this design is so powerful for this particular problem. You want to add a new kind of publication? Easy.
You just create one new class for it. The existing book or article classes, you don't touch them. Your old code stays stable, safe, and untouched. It's fantastic.
So, okay, at this point it seems pretty obvious, right? Design 2 is the winner. Case closed. It's cleaner, it's safer, it's just better. But hold on. What if the challenge wasn't adding a new type of thing? What if the change we needed to make was something completely different? And this is where the whole thing gets turned on its head. Look at this. For adding a new publication type, a new noun, Design 2 is the easy winner. We saw that. But what if the challenge was to add a new citation style, a new verb, like the Chicago style? All of a sudden, Design 1, the one that seems so clunky, is actually the easy one. You just write one new Cite Chicago function and you're done. With Design 2, oh man, you'd have to go back and add that new method to every single object, the book, the article, the web page. It's the exact same problem, just flipped around.
And that brings us to the real takeaway here. There is no single best design. It just doesn't exist. It's all about trade-offs. The right choice isn't about what's easiest or cleanest today. It's about making a bet on the future. It's about asking yourself, what kind of changes do I expect to see down the road? The real art of great software design is picking the architecture that makes your most likely future changes easy to handle. So the question you should always be asking isn't which design is better, it's which future am I building for?